Fame, fortune, clout, whatever people elect to call it, there is no denying that it is the ultimate or main goal of anybody on social media in which they try to achieve it. But of course, there comes a time where one has to actually sit back and factor in whether or not it is what they were truly desiring and the cost that is involved with attaining such clout, fame, fortune. The price, if that's what you wish to call it. That is why I am here today. This is something that has always interested me, and it is why it is the inaugural video on the Cynical Apex Commentaries channel, aka this channel, an insight into fame and the cost in general. Let's get it started. Before we begin, I should state this is not blaming anybody who uses social media or attempts to claim themselves to be an influencer for approaching it in the manners that they do. Because each person has their own way of approaching fame. Each person will look at it and try to take a different grasp upon it. If you get what I mean by that. Now, of course, there are some people that might take it in ways that are seen as unethical to some, but to them, it is the only way they know how to. After all, your aim is to get eyes and ears onto your channel and hope that you can rope enough people in that enjoy your product or content that you're throwing out there so that they will subscribe, like your videos, and share them to their friends. Word of mouth, if you will. In other social media platforms like Instagram, you're trying to get likes. YouTube, Facebook, you're trying to get likes and potentially even shares. And on Twitter, you are trying to get likes, followers, and retweets. That's just how it is. That is the quantifiable, that is the tangible measure of success. And that is what people use when they talk about content creators that are relevant, or that those that are in the limelight and managing to actually succeed at the task that is in front of them. Now, that is called going by the statistics after all. And regardless of what people think, that is what everybody is going to use in order to measure the success level of their channel. The engagement that they have with their audience and whether or not what they are doing is actually the path that they wish to take. Whether or not they are being logically successful, or well, objectively in this case is probably the better term rather than logically. Now, the problem comes in whether or not they have strayed away from the basis, the foundation on which they built themselves on, all because of their turmoil, all because of the vicious cycle of feeling like they have to continue elevating their game to a point where it actually takes a toll on them beyond what you would usually see. What I mean by that is just look at most prank channels. Now, we all know that the vast majority of them are scripted. Now, you can see, they're just entertainment, and of course, pranks are always going to generate a reaction. They're always going to be relevant in the limelight. So they work in that regard. But is it really worth it? Is it worth the critique? Is it worth how they approach the videos? Sure, to them it might be, and to their fans, of course, you know it's fake, but after all, it is entertaining. And it is going to always be an effective method to bring in an audience, so you can't really complain with that at all. And I'm not trying to complain here about it, because there's really no means for me to do so. I'm just pointing out that there is, of course, the turmoil of criticism and how you approach taking that criticism, with most choosing to take what is seen as a wrong route in attacking back, rather than taking it on board and actually realizing, hey, maybe we should try to tweak our content a little bit so that, yes, it remains entertaining, but that we also add a dynamic of realism. We also make sure that it's not so obstractly fake, or obviously fake rather, that people are always going to be like, oh, this is just fake. Oh, of course you're going to generate the reaction because you scripted it to be that way. Well, you can also say that news channels or reactionary commentary channels know that they're going to get the reactions, that they're going to get eyes upon them, because people like drama. People are petty at their core, and that is true. They are. So yes, you are going to get fame, you are going to get fortune, and you are going to get clout that way. But can you be seen as a clout chaser? In my eyes, yes, to an extent you are chasing clout, you are chasing the trending topics, but that isn't a bad thing at all. After all, if a topic is out there, if it's in the public domain, people are always going to want to see how people view it. They're always going to see opinions, whether or not those opinions contrast with their own or whether or not they agree with them. That is always going to be the case. People are going to want opinions. They're going to want to see what it is that's happening, which is where those TMZ style drama channels come in, or they're going to want to see what the general or public consensus is of it. The court of public opinion, if you want to call it that, which is where reactionary or just commentary channels in general come in to play. We know this. But the problem is that most commentary channels end up becoming an echo chamber. They all just regurgitate the same opinions and don't really add much context unless it's like the first 2 or 3 videos discussing the topic. From there on, it's just people trying to jump in, claim their clout, and move on to the next topic. And that is where the whole clout chasing commentary comes in. Now, for me personally, I don't mind it because you've got to do what you've got to do in order to achieve fame, in order to achieve the tangible success that I brought up earlier. But you've also got to look at it as people are going to critique you. People are going to point out, hey, why did you talk on this if people have already talked on it and you really didn't have much new things to add to the discussion? And it almost seems like you didn't research the topic to actually get some depth, to actually give them viewpoints that they may not have seen before. And yes, that is a very valid critique, and that is one that I actually do hold myself, although that will be for another video where I actually go more into depth about the commentary community as a whole, rather than this that's talking solely about fame and the cost that's associated with them, or rather the critiques that people get. Now, we see some people, in regards to that, respond to that critique in their own videos and say, hey, at least I'm offering an opinion, at least I'm giving a viewpoint, and freedom of speech. And yes, you do have freedom of speech. You have the right to say whatever you want, just as people have the right to respond to you in any means that they see fit, whether or not that is positive to you, or whether or not that is negative to you. To hide from that is almost to deny that criticism exists, to deny that you've done anything wrong. And I get why people will want to live in that bubble. After all, this is a platform where you will do what you wish. And it is, at the end of the day, a hobby, which means that you are always going to look at what entertains you. Now, of course, when it comes to YouTube, that does encapsulate the audience and what entertains them as well. So if it's a topic that they want you to speak on, then of course you're going to feel obligated to do so. But my suggestion is that you look at it objectively, you actually go and do research, even if that is on sort of a simple level of just talking to the parties involved and constructing your viewpoints based off what you think from there. That's fine. At least you looked into it. At least you tried to garner some of the context of the situation, which is where I feel like most YouTubers, or even most social media commentators, as they want to call themselves, fail. I feel like they don't quite understand or grasp the full context of the situation and feel like that, hey, this is something I can gain clout from. This is something that I can gain fame from. And ultimately, they'll grasp at that like people grasp at straws when they try to make arguments. and they will continue grasping at it till a point where it becomes a vicious cycle, and each and every time a new topic comes, it almost becomes a shiny toy for you. It almost becomes a point where you're just like, hey, I can acquire something from this. I can benefit from this, so I'm going to use that to my advantage, and I am always going to try to strive to do that. Now let's look at guys like Jake Paul, where they were kept doing things that were noted as extreme, that were getting him into the limelight. So of course they figured, hey, this is what's getting me into the limelight, so I'm going to continue doing this, and I'm even going to elevate it so that what was once seen as normal for me, and where people would usually move on, they have to continue talking about it, and they have to continue the vicious cycle coming on, so that, hey, maybe I can generate new viewers off the criticism. Maybe that I can twist it into my own favor, which is something that I actually don't hate at all. In fact, you can't. You've got to almost love and respect it. Respect the grind, respect the hustle, as people like to say. I've been a person myself that has always said, if you're going to do something, make sure that you go all in with it. Make sure that you know that even if there's negative publicity, that you find a way in order to actually advance it and make it into your own positives. After all, as they say, any publicity is good publicity. We hear that all the time in the entertainment industry. Which brings me to the point of, after all, that is why the worst word that a creator or anybody can hear is irrelevant, and that people have no thoughts on them, because you don't want apathy. You want people to actually hold opinions. You want people to think whether or not it is positive or negative, whether or not it is for or against you. At least they have an opinion on you. At least then they're keeping your name in their mouth. And after all, that is what we look for in fame. That is what everybody looks for in fame. And yes, this might be a bit of a tangent, but I hope you guys at least grab a concept of fame. At least you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. But for now, I am actually going to let you go. If you guys want more details and stuff, you can contact me on Twitter at Cynical Commentaries, or you can like and subscribe to this channel if you so wish.